Tapetva Yudeta Marang Panya Yudena Gitancharakhe Anivesanosya Kumbhupamang kaya mimang viditva Nagarupamang midang tapetva Yudita marang panyayudena Jitan cerakhe anivesanosya. The meaning: realizing that this body is as fragile as a jar, establishing this mind as firm as a fortified city, he should attack Mara with the weapons of wisdom. He should guard his conquest and be without attachment. Not so easy to understand this direct translation. This is the nature of the language. These sayings of the Buddha, he had to recite or he had to give this advice due to certain incident. A group of monks who were practicing this meditation in an open area or in jungle were disturbed by some devas or deities or spirits. There are some other cases also similar to this incident. A monk who wanted to go and meditate in a cave, like Batu cave, was disturbed by a female deva, a spirit, in that cave. The monks decided not to leave the place. A spirit started to disturb, and this battle was going on. Finally, the monk asked this spirit to go away from this place. He said he wants to meditate here. A spirit says, no, I have been staying here for a long time. You are a newcomer. You have no right to chase me away. She is right. Then this news spread. The Buddha came to know. He advised, without fighting, without quarreling, you can settle this problem. Both can live peacefully in this place if you radiate your kindness and compassion and understanding. There is no reason for you to chase away the other person. Another reason why these deities or devas or spirit don't like to stay with them, they are staying above and the meditators are sitting on the ground. They think it is not advisable we must respect them because they are holy people. They are religious people. Because of them, we cannot sit on the top of the trees or caves or jungles or rocks. This is another reason. Another reason is some of those spirit devas are not religious minded or pious, and some are jealous, some are cruel, some are wicked, some are narrow minded. They cannot tolerate their way of life or meditation. Because of that, they disturb. The Buddha's advice to all of them, best thing is to radiate. First cultivate your compassion. After cultivating, radiate this compassion or metta towards others. Then they can live peacefully. Even amongst human beings or animals or other living beings or spirit or ghost, we can control them or we can avoid their disturbances if we really radiate our compassion towards them wholeheartedly. But there is nothing for us to radiate if we have not cultivated this in the mind. People simply can recite something, but there is nothing to radiate. First they have to cultivate. How to cultivate it? To cultivate compassion, there are so many evil forces they have to suppress. That is the difficulty. If there is cruelty in our minds, we cannot cultivate compassion. If there is jealousy in our mind, we cannot cultivate compassion. If we develop enmity or discrimination or hostility, we cannot cultivate compassion. So when we suppress, although we cannot eradicate, we can suppress them, control them. Then can cultivate our compassion. Then it will become effective radiation. We can influence human beings, animals, spirits, devas, any kinds of living beings, whether they can understand or not. This radiation effect to calm their mind or their attitude. Very fierce animals in the jungle never disturbed those monks or meditators who spent for many years in the jungle. Because of this radiation of compassion or kindness or metta, it is very effective. You can radiate to your enemies who are very angry with you. You know they are planning to harm you, disturb you. Instead of radiating your hatred toward them, you can radiate loving kindness toward them, thinking that they are not understanding people. They are ignorant. They are stupid. They are narrow-minded. That is why they develop their hatred or enmity. But we should not follow their attitude. We must radiate our metta. After sometimes you can see how changes take place in their mind. It's really work. Nahi verena verani. This sayings of the Buddha is respected, appreciated by everybody, follower of any religion in this world. Appreciate. Nahi verena verani. Hatred never ends by hatred. When one person hates you, if you also hate that person, you aggravate the situation, but you cannot see the end of this hatred. Therefore, if you want to see the end of this hatred, this unhealthy attitude, you have to radiate loving kindness to her. Then you can see the end of it. This advice of the Buddha. So, this particular group of monks who could not concentrate or meditate because of these disturbances reported to the Buddha. Then the Buddha, all right, you must radiate your metta, your kindness, your compassion towards them. After that, they stop disturbances. Then he gave the method for them to concentrate. You must go and concentrate on this subject. This is the way how he advised these monks. The meaning is, Kumbhupamang khaya mimang viditva. Kumbha means pot or vessel, earthen vessel. Kumbhu, upama means compare. Compare your body to an earthen vessel or pot. Kumbhupamang kaya means body. Your body is just like a pot. Kayam imam, this body. Viditva, realizing. Realizing this body is just like an earthen vessel. That means breakable. Earthen vessel is breakable. This body also breakable, very tender. Here, when you analyze this body, there are 32 parts. Many people take this for meditation. They concentrate on this body by taking one by one. What are those 32? Atti imasmin kaye. Imasmin kaye, in this body. Atti consists, then kesa, loma, nakha, danta, tacho, mangsang, naharu, atti, attiminja, wakkang, hadayang, yakanang, kilomakang, pihakang, pappasang, antang, antagunang, udariyang, karisang, muttang, mattalunga. One by one. The meditators take one by one. I think you have heard that story. A young monk who was practicing this meditation, concentrating on 32 parts of this body, like start from hair, skin, and flesh, blood, and bones, lungs, liver, going on one by one. So, he was concentrating on bones of the body. At that time, a young lady who had a fight with her husband ran away from the house. This monk was meditating in the jungle. She had to go through this jungle. Then suddenly she saw this young monk She stopped and watching very carefully with smiling face. After waiting for a short while, this lady came to know that this monk is concentrating very deeply, no point of watching him, so she went in. After some time, the husband came in searching this lady where she had gone. Then he met this monk. Asked, did you see any lady right through this way? Then the monk said, actually I do not know whether man or woman. I saw only one set of teeth, because he was concentrating on bones, teeth. When this lady started to laugh, watching a thing, he took this as an object for his meditation. So he developed his meditation by watching her teeth, but he does not know whether it is man or woman. Then when he said like this man said, I think this is a mad fellow. he doesn't know what to talk, and he also went away. This is the nature. The mind, when a person develops deep concentration and meditation, fix the mind only toward that object and never watch the rest. So 32 part of the body, especially those who observe 8 precepts on full moon and new moon days, you can see in the temple, all of them get together, how they recite this. Atti masmin kaye kesa loma nakha danta tacho mangsang naharu. Because when they concentrate on this, they can control their mind without thinking or taking some other external object into the mind. Then slowly the realizations appear. The nature of this body. This body is the most difficult things for us to control, to maintain, to support, to look after. Our whole lifetime is spent to look after this body by thinking that we are attending to ourselves. We are not attending to our life, attending to this body. Thinking body is the life. This is the wrong concept, wrong belief, wrong idea. I have repeated more than 110,000 times. Body is not our life, this is the house. Life exists in this house, but no one can see the life. No one can see the mind. Mind and life are energies. Like wind. Can you see the wind? No one can see the wind. When wind blows, we feel. We can see trees and branches are shaking here and there. We can hear the sound, but we cannot see the wind. So, we neglect our life. That is due to our ignorance. By neglecting our life, we commit bad thing, wicked thing to support this body. but not the life. By harming and disturbing and killing and doing all sorts of bad things and bluffing, swindling, harming others to support this body. But the life we neglect. Knowledge of the Dhamma is important for us to understand, to attend to our life also. No doubt the body maintains our life. Because of this body, life exists here. But this body is very uncertain, create enormous troubles and problems and worries and pains when we develop attachment towards the body. We are willing to destroy even thousands and 100,000s life to protect this body. There is a saying, Dhanang chajeyo pana anga hetu. We are willing to spend even few $100,000 to protect our hands or legs or arms. Or we are willing to spend even $100,000 if we can protect. If doctors say we have to amputate our leg or our hand, if you can spend $100,000, I can save your leg or your hand. And then willing to spend $100,000 to protect. How much we love. Then, Angang chaje jivitang rakkama. Later, again the doctor come and tell, your leg is gangrene, very difficult to save. I have to amputate. Otherwise your life is in danger. Now he is willing to sacrifice the leg to protect the life. See how much we like this. Angang dhanang jivitang chapi sabbang chaje naro dhamma manussaram. Wise people, understanding people are willing to sacrifice wealth, limbs and body for the sake of the Dhamma, the truth, to understand the Dhamma. Because through this understanding, they can have better life, but not by protecting this body, maintaining this body, but through realization, so understanding, we can have better life, more developed, more advanced, more meaningful life through the Dhamma. So the Dhamma is more important than anything else. What is Dhamma? Realizations of the truth. But the most difficult thing in this world for us to realize is the truth. We can understand everything but not the truth. Another thing. When we realize the truth, we don't like it. Because the truth is not in our favor. We want something that we can satisfy. But the truth is not to console us. To understand this is dangerous, this is harmful, this is useful, this is useless. This is the nature of the truth. So when we realize this, we feel we are not very happy about it. Dhamma is like that. Now we say, not we, the Buddha says, the main reason of all our physical and mental suffering is nothing but our craving. That is the truth. But we don't like this truth. We like to have craving. Then what will happen? If we maintain this craving, then we have to prepare to face so many troubles and problems and worries and disturbances and sufferings, how many things are. When that craving is no more, we are free from all these disturbances. It is true. That is the truth. But we are not willing to accept this truth, although we know that it is true. Here, kumbhupamang kayamimang viditva. Imang kaya, this body. Kumbhupamang, just like an earthen vessel. Viditva, by realizing this. Then we know this is very uncertain, this is very tender, it is breakable at any time. Yathapi kumbhakarasya katang mattika bhajana sabbang vedana pariyantang evang machchana jivitang. Another sayings of the Buddha, similar to this. Kumbhakara means potter, one who made earthen vessel. Yathapi kumbhakarasya katang mattika. Mattika means mud. I think this mud was derived from mattika. Katang mattika bhajanam, vessel. The vessel made out of mud by the potter. Yathapi kumbhakarasya katang mattika bhajanam sabbang bhedana pariyanta. Everything that he makes is subject to break. Bhedana pariyanta. Any kinds of vessel that he make out of mud or clay is subject to break. Sabbang bhedana pariyanta. Evang machchana jivitang. Machchana means human. Jivitang means here is life, this body. Evang, just like that. Evang machchana jivitang. Then concentrate on this. The body that we maintain, that we carry here and there, can break at any time, just like an earthen vessel. When we realize this, the advantage of this realization is this. We don't commit bad and cruel and harmful things to maintain this. By realizing this is very uncertain, this is breakable, so why should I harm others, disturb others, block others to maintain this? What do I gain in the end? Nothing. When it is broken, I have to throw it away. I cannot carry the pieces to make another pot. If you make another pot by collecting these pieces, that pot becomes a crackpot, I think. Cannot use. These are the sayings of the Buddha. When we think and concentrate, then can understand. Then the changes take place in our life. Our crazy attitude for certain things, our enmity, our jealousy, and all sorts of evil forces. Why do we maintain all these things? To support this. But we don't gain anything. We pollute, we spoil, we ruin our life. Kumbhupamang kayamimang viditva. Nagarupamang chittamimang viditva. Tapetva. Nagarupamang chittamidang tapetva. Nagara means city. Nagarupamang, compared to a city. Chittamimang, chittamidang, idang chitta, this mind. Nagarupamang chittamidang tapetva. It is mentioned here, establishing, tapetva means establishing. This mind as firm, as a fortified city, very strong, very dynamic force, surrounded by huge walls and so many other things. So regard your mind as a city, well protected, surrounded by big walls, like Udu jail. See the wall, how strong it is. So the mind you had to protect in this way by realizing that it is an object for us to protect. We had to use our full effort to protect this mind, because there are so many enemies, so many disturbances, so many influences to disturb the mind. We cannot protect our mind by entertaining the mind, by pleasing the mind. Mind needs so many things. By supplying the needs that the mind requires, it is impossible to control that mind. The Buddha says, Aggikkando samuddocha mahichochapi puggalo. When there is a heap of fire, you want to stop this flame by throwing more and more firewood into this heap of fire. You cannot stop the flame. Go higher and higher and higher. When the mind needs something, sensual pleasure, you cannot console, you cannot control, you cannot satisfy that mind by providing what that mind needs. You must know what it is, why mind needs it. That is why it is necessary to guard, to protect, to be mindful. Just like army, police, and so many others try to protect that city. So in the same manner, by using our knowledge, understanding, experience, maturity, we must know how to guard, how to protect this mind. Otherwise, it is very difficult. Because the mind is responsible for the life, not the body. Life depends on the mind. the life exists in the mind because of the, life exists in the body because of the mind. Mind and life are interrelated. Mind cannot exist without life. Life cannot exist without mind. After our death, body remain here. We know we cannot carry, drop here. Either bury or cremate, finish. But the mind, in that mind there are different faculties in that mental energy. These different mental faculties maintain certain ingredients. These ingredients mix up with the mental energy. Then it is called consciousness. Yesterday I had a 2 hours discussion with the Christian group, 12 of them, Methodists, Anglicans and some others, came with the Christian pastor. One is a lawyer, the other one is a professor. 2 hours talk. And they asked this question about soul. What is the Buddhist attitude? I told them very frankly, you use the word soul. We use the word consciousness. But the idea is the same. Concept is the same. The difference is, but you believe the soul is created by the God. But we don't believe that consciousness is created by the God. This is the only difference. So we had 2 hours discussion. So they were very happy when we explained frankly, without hiding, without talking as a hypocrite. In the end, I told them, now after listening to me, if any of you come and tell me that you want to become a Buddhist, then I ask, what is wrong with your religion? If you can remain as good Christians, that is enough for us. We are not here to convert others, but for people to tell what is the real religious way of life. Can use any religious name, labels, they are not important. So this is the Buddhist attitude. Then I attended another meeting 3 days ago in the Bishop House in Bukit Nana. 2.5 hours discussion. It's a very big complaint from the Sikh community, Punjabis. Some Christian groups have written a very long pamphlet against Guru Nanak and Sikhism. So they complain to this consultative council. So our council is to discuss this kind of problem. Chairman is the bishop, Methodist bishop, Dennis Dutton. He had to accept this complaint and decide what to do. They could not come to any conclusion. Then I told them, this is the consultative councils of Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism and Sikhism. We cannot decide what to do. Our duty is to report to Christian Federation. It is up to them to investigate, find out who are the culprits. We cannot find out. Then advise them not to do this kind of what you call hostile attitude, show discrimination to others by criticizing and condemning. So this kind of discussions are very important for us to maintain some sort of understanding. Otherwise we develop enmity. It is very dangerous. So the mind is such. We maintain some concept. Why religion has become very sensitive? Different religious groups can get together, eat as good friends without any discrimination. They can attend any entertainment together without any differences. Any social welfare activities without any differences, discrimination. But when we come to religion, then it will become very sensitive. That means one religious group cannot tolerate the method and belief and practice of another religious group. Hostile attitude or intolerance or discrimination we can see. Why it is difficult to merge? Because religions based on belief and faith, although they maintain belief and faith or concept, they have not realized the truth. Just maintain belief and concept. After that, they cannot use their analytical knowledge to analyze unbiasedly. They are biased. So as Buddhist, I believe, although I don't believe it, assume that I believe. My ideas, my belief, my concept about Buddhism are correct. Others are wrong. That is why we cannot agree. We cannot compromise. Then it will become sensitive. Argument, then clashes, then develop to enmity. The question. In Sri Lanka, today I think about 75% Buddhist. Buddhists always preach and talk about love and metta and kindness. Why do they fight and kill others? Why Tamils and Sinhalese kill each other in a Buddhist country? They asked this question. Then I told, Buddhism teaches loving kindness, metta. Hinduism or Indians preach non-violence. So if there is any fight between Hindus and Buddhists, it is a fight between non-violence and loving kindness. Not with Sinhalese and Tamils. Because they are the basic principle of these two groups. If Hindus maintain non-violence, how can they come and attack Sinhalese? If Sinhalese Buddhists maintain loving kindness, how can they attack Tamils? Then I told them, when they come to the battlefield, they don't follow religion. Religions never support them. No sanction from religion. Religion never appreciate their attitude. They violate religious principle because of their ethnic group or racial arrogance or various other discrimination. All right. The one who asked this question is a Christian. Then I asked, what is happening in Northern Ireland? Catholic and Protestant kill each other under same religion, under same God. They are not fighting for religion. Christianity never encouraged for them to fight and kill others. They are divided into two groups because of their different label, but religions never encourage. And other religions also like this. This is the problem. When we maintain religious concept, religious belief, religious faith, without understanding, we had no courage to tolerate when anger, jealousy, greed flare up. So we forget all these things, violate everything, and fight. So, Nagarupamang chittamidang thapetva, regard this mind as a city that we have to protect, because there are so many enemies who can come and attack, who can come and rob or disturb. So there are so many army and police and security guard everywhere. Watch, guard, protect. Otherwise, mind will be misled, deluded, blindfolded, misused. This is the nature of the mind. The knowledge of the Dhamma is important here for you to guard your mind so that others cannot influence. They cannot send evil forces to disturb or to influence your mind. If this understanding of the Dhamma is not in your mind, very easily you become the victim to many others. Some people come and bluff you, swindle you, cheat you, and tell you all cock and bull stories about religions and miracles and supernatural powers and all sort of things. You believe all these things. Then you become the victim. Then they take the advantage of it. Because of your faith, because of your belief. But if Dhamma is there, it is not so easy to influence you, bluff you. So one day, the Buddha visited a very rich man's house, and he had dana also, and preached the Dhamma. He realized the truth. Mara was watching. He was very unhappy when a person becomes a very cultured or religious-minded person. He supports the wicked people and cruel people. So when the Buddha left this house, Mara had some sort of worldly powers. I think you have heard this story. I also mentioned in one of my booklets, Are Buddhist Idol Worshippers, in this booklet. It's out of print a long time. Very interesting story. There is something for us to learn. 200 years after the Buddha, there was a well-known monk in India. His name was Upagupta. He was the best preacher. When he preached, thousands of people assembled, listen and learn the Dhamma. Mara was watching. He could not tolerate this. So what he did, he organized amusement, entertainment, just opposite the temple. Divine music, dance, entertainment, very attractive. And those people who come to attend to his talk, slowly drifted and enjoy this entertainment. Finally, nobody to come and listen to this talk. All are enjoying the entertainment. Then Upagupta was thinking what to do now. He knew this is the trick of the Mara. He has disturbed the Buddha also many times. But the Buddha did not teach him a good lesson, because he is very kind. I must teach him a good lesson. He also went there. And he said, yes, I really appreciate your entertainment. So in appreciations of your entertainment, I respect you, I honor you. And he put a garland in his neck. Oh, he was very happy, the Mara. After a short while, he found that this garland is tightening his neck, like a python. Tightening. He tried by using full force to take it out, cannot take it out. Then he went to the king of the god, Sakra, asked him to help. Please help me. I am in trouble. I cannot take out this. Then Sakra also tried. Cannot. Then Sakra said, I cannot do anything. You must go to Mahabrahma, higher than Sakra. I think he can do something. Then Mara went to Mahabrahma and begged, please take it out, otherwise I may die. Brahma also tried, cannot take it out. Then he told him, I don't think there is anybody in this world who can take it out. Only that person who put this garland near neck can take it out. you must go back. He had to come back and requested, beg him to take out this gala. Then the Upagutta said, all right, under one condition. You must promise in future, when we are going to perform our religious services, that you should not come and interrupt or disturb. Maharaj said, yes, definitely. Then Upagutta said, I can take it out. There is another condition. Not only this. I am living 200 years after the Buddha. I have not seen the Buddha. You have seen the Buddha because they live thousands of years. And you can perform, transform your life, your body into any form. You have to represent here, show me the real Buddha figure with 32 special characteristics. Maharaj said, it is not very difficult for me. I can do that. Then Maharaj said, I am also going to do this under one condition. When I represent here as the Buddha, you should not worship me, because I am not holy. You are a holy man. You should not worship me. Bhagavad said, no, I am not going to worship you. Then he took out the garland. Then the Maharaj suddenly disappeared and stood in front of him, the real Buddha figure. Upagutta was so happy at once. When Maharaj shouted, you promise that you do not worship me. I am not worshipping you, you idiot. You think I am worshipping you? I am worshipping to the Buddha. Remember, this is a good lesson for you to learn. When you worship the Buddha image, others may come and condemn you. You are worshipping idol, you are worshipping a stone, you are worshipping this and that. You forget you are worshipping the Buddha, not to this image. So I am worshipping the Buddha, not the Mara. So, now I want to repeat, go back to the original story. So the Buddha visited a rich man's house, had dana, preached the Dhamma, he realized the truth. Mara was very unhappy. When the Buddha left this house, after half an hour time, again he came back. Mara came. He transformed himself into a Buddha figure and came and told him, do you know, actually what I preached to you earlier, I have done that mistakenly. That is not the truth. So I came back to tell you the real truth. And that man says, I think the Buddhas have not two words, only one word. When once they said something, they never say, oh, mistakenly I have said something. I don't think you are a Buddha, you are Mara. They disappear. There are very interesting stories. So what I am going to tell you, when you realize the truth, even Mara also cannot mislead you, cannot bluff you, cannot mislead you. The knowledge of the Dhamma. Now we are not scared, or we have no fear to face any religious groups who come to challenge, because we have enough, more than enough truths. That courage, the knowledge or understanding of the Dhamma, without creating enmity, without fighting, without quarreling, without shouting, we can talk gently, we can show all our differences,
politely. That is how the Dhamma has strengthened our mind, that understanding. So nagarupamang chittamimang viditva, by realizing this mind is just like a city that we had to protect. Yodetha marang panyayudena, he should attack Mara with the weapons of wisdom. Yodetha, Yodetha means attack. Marang, who is this Mara? All the evil forces, all the wicked, cruel, harmful forces in our mind, Mara. I explained 5 kinds of Mara. This is one of them. All our evil thoughts are different kind of Maras in our mind. So here, Yodetha Marang, attack that Mara, evil force. Panya Yudhena, Ayudha means weapon. Panya means wisdom. Wisdom means realization. Development of the mind. Gain wisdom. Then you can use that wisdom as weapons to protect yourself, to guard yourself, to maintain peace, calmness, happiness, by using that wisdom as a weapon. Yodetha marang panya. Then not necessary to fight or shout or attack, not necessary to create violence or disturbances. Wisdom is strong enough. That knowledge, this understanding. Yodetha marang panya yudhe. Jitancha rakhe anivesanosya. He should guard his conquest and be without attachment. He must know how to guard that he conquered by suppressing, controlling all the evil forces and maras. People gain knowledge, wisdom, calmness, tranquility, must know how to guard. Started from the beginning. Kumbhupamang kaya mimang vijitva, by realizing this body is a earthen vessel, breakable at any time, uncertain, impermanent. Nagarupamang chittamidang tapitva, by realizing this mind must be guarded properly, otherwise lot of disturbances come from external. Yodet marang panya videna. When you guard your mind, the mental energy that you develop, the knowledge and wisdom that you gain, you can use to topple any kind of evil forces that try to influence you to do bad things or immoral things or harmful things. So jitancha rakhe anivesanosya, by realizing this, try to protect what you have gained, developed in your mind. All the good qualities, the virtues, the morals, ethics, disciplines, knowledge, how many things you have developed. So don't allow evil forces to come and disturb. Now you come and observe 8 precepts here. You come and observe meditation. You come and listen to Dhamma. And you come and participate and donate and support various religious activities. Through these practices, you develop, you cultivate, you maintain, you discipline, you gain merit. But all these things can be destroyed when evil forces appear. If you allow evil forces to enter into your mind, your anger, your craving, your jealousy, your selfishness, all these forces can topple everything what you have cultivated. That is what the Buddha tried to explain. Okay. Next Friday. Tomorrow I have to go to Singapore. Right, sharing of merits. Ready? Imina punya kammena upajjaya gunuttara acari upakaraca mata pita piya mamang Suryo Candi Maharaja Gunavanta Narapica Brahma Maharaja Indaca Lokapalaca Devata Yamo Mitta Manusaca Madhyatta Verika Pica Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu Punyani Pakatani Me Sukhanca Dividam Dentu Kipang Papeta Omatang Imina punya kammena Imina uddise Kippahang sulape ceva Tanupadana cedanang Ye santani hina dhamma Yava nibbanato mamang Nassantu sabbada eva Yattha jato bhave bhave Yocitto satipanyo Sallekho viriyavamina Maralabhantu no kasam Katunca viriyesu me Buddhadi pavaro Dhammo natho aruttamo Natho pacceka sambuddho Sangho natho taro mamang Tesottamanubhavena Maroka sanglabhantu ma